Hi everyone, this is chapter 4, which is beat subdivisions. This one can get a little dense, and so I recommend you watch this a couple times if it's confusing and really try and drill those exercises to get the counting numbers and to understand these subdivisions, okay? So I'm going to go kind of fast because we have a lot to go over. This sheet, except for one thing, was from last time, right? Whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes. We're adding 16th notes, which are even faster than eighth notes. And in the same pattern of everything, 16th notes are twice as fast as eighth notes, okay? So they're the fastest notes. They look very similar to eighth notes. They have two flags, though, instead of one. And when you beam them together, they've got the two beams. That's how you know they're 16th notes. If it's one, it's an eighth note. Okay, since 16th notes are so fast, you can fit a lot more of them in the space of a measure than you can eighth notes. An eighth note is worth half a beat if we're in 4/4, right? Let's look at this chart. If we're in 4/4, that whole note is worth 4 beats. The half note is worth 2 beats. Quarter note is worth 1 beat because the bottom number of 4/4 is representative of a quarter. That means 1/4 equals 1 beat. Eighth note is worth half a beat, and a 16th note is only worth a quarter of a beat. So just to get one full beat with 16th notes, you have to use 4 of them. So 4 of them fit in the space of 1 beat. From 1 to 2, you can fit 4 notes. That being said, we need counting numbers. We need something to say in the space of those beats, in the space of those notes, so that we have words to say for each of those rhythms. If you remember, for eighth notes, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, because you can fit 8 eighth notes in the space of those 4 beats. With 16th notes, you can fit 16 16th notes in the space of 4 beats. So we need more symbols and more syllables to say. So we have the 1 and the and then we add E and A. So it looks like this measure here. Look at all those 16th notes. 4, 8, 12, 16 16th notes in one measure of 4/4. And we say it like this. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. Okay? I said 16 different things, so I have 16 different things for the 16th notes. So if we have a normal measure before that, let's see, where is that sheet? Here. It doesn't even matter, actually. Here, this one from last time. If we add the 16th notes onto it, that last measure there, let's just say it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So that's how you subdivide 16th notes, and that's what you say. Now I want you to keep that in mind when we go on to this next level of things, which is dotted notes. When you add a dot next to a note, like this, here, 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 you add half of the value of the note to the note. Meaning, if we're in 4/4, this whole note is worth 4 beats, right? You add half of 4, which is 2, and that equals 6 total. So this is now worth 6 beats. Half note is worth 2, and you dot it. You add half of 2, which is 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3 beats. Quarter note is worth 1. Half of 1 is a half. So this is worth 1 and a half beats. Half note, or eighth note is worth a half. Half of a half is a quarter. Think of baking if you do that. So a quarter plus a half is 3/4. Now that seems really confusing, right? Something that's worth 3/4 of a beat, 3/4, or I could write it as 0.75. But usually a dotted eighth note goes hand in hand with what kind of note is worth 1/4 of a beat? That's right, a 16th note. So usually you have a dotted 8th note with a 16th note, and that equals 1 full beat. And so let's talk about how we could count that. Here's our dotted 8th note, and then I beam it together with a 16th note. You see that it's a 16th? It's got that little line. So remember, dotted 8th note, 16th, 16th, dotted 8th, and then I just put a quarter there. You can see usually one beat is beamed together. This is one beat, one beat, one beat, one beat, okay? Now, we've got a 16th note, so let's look at the way we count 16ths, okay? This is a dotted 8th, it's worth 3/4. So 3 of those counts, 1 E and, are gonna go to this dotted 8. 1 E and. And then the last 4th count, the that goes to this 16th. So it's gonna go 1 E and a, long, short. Same thing here. Dotted 8th, 2 E and then 16th note. Okay? 2 E and a. I like to put them in parentheses when I'm not playing the parts. This 8th note, or 16th note with a dotted 8th, you're going to put 3, and then it's just worth one of those symbols. 3, just a single 16th note is worth 1. And then that dotted 8th is worth the other 3. 3 E and a, short, long. See that? 16th, dotted 8th. And then this quarter note at the end, you could just put 4, or you could put 4 E and a. It doesn't matter. You're not clapping that. So let's try just this measure here. I'll give you a measure to count off, okay? Whoops. Ooh, here we go. Everything's falling down now. Okay, everyone ready? 1, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Should we try that again? I'm going to try it on notes, okay? 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, go E and a. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So look at that third beat. It's short, long. I switched it around. Try it again. Ready? Go. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay? That's pretty complicated. Let's look at this next measure. We're now kind of mixing stuff, okay? I like to look at whatever my fastest note is in the measure. Here, it's a 16th note. So I'm going to count this little thing here as if it were 16th notes, all of them. Only 2 are 16th notes, and 1 is an 8th note. An 8th note is worth a half. 2 16th notes is worth a half, because it's a quarter plus a quarter. So for this whole beat here, we've got 1 E and a to fill up. I'm going to put 1 and E under the 8th note, because it's worth a quarter plus a quarter. And then and under the 2 16ths. Then we've got 8th notes here, so I'm just going to put 2 and, then 3, 4. Okay? 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E, again. Okay guys, I'm going to play it on the piano again. You can watch me learning in real time how to do this the best way. Okay, I'm going to play it. 1 E and a, 2, just this measure. 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and 1 E and a, 2 and 3 and 4 and. I could say 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a the whole time. That might be easier. Let's try that. Ready? Go. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So I can keep subdividing if I want for the longer notes. Sometimes it just gets kind of wordy, but that's okay. Okay, so if this is confusing to you, go back and watch it again and check it out in the textbook, okay?